How do I pronounce your name?
Tjaša.
Tjaša. Thank you, Tjaša. I didn't want to butcher it as we started.
You're good. You're good.
All right. So typically with a new guest, I love to ask, what's your background? How'd you get here? And where's your passion? Where are you going?
Okay, that's an interesting question. My husband keeps saying that I leave out a big portion of my career, and he says it's so interesting and so like a good hook, and he's like, you got to start telling that. So I'm gonna say where my entrepreneurial journey started. So right out of college, I with my friends founded a startup in the Middle East, and we were working with farmers there, mostly with camel farmers, and we were producing good, healthy, nutritious food for racing camels. So that was my start of my business journey. So we were growing there. We were selling in most of the Gulf countries, from Saudi Arabia to UAE to Oman and so on. And then, the 2020 COVID situation happened where, small businesses, it was really hard to survive, and it was a big hit for us, and we kind of decided to put that aside. And then I became a business developer for a company that was working with organic waste management projects, and we were using beneficials microbes to do that, and we were using the bokashi method. So I worked with those projects again in the Middle East, but a little bit in South America, around Europe, and then United States, where I came in contact with TeraGanix today. And then, since I was quite acquainted with the microorganisms, the bokashi method, and all those things, and then we started talking about agriculture and fertilizers and how to do that. And basically, about 4 years ago, TeraGanix took a little pivot on the journey and focused in commercial agriculture. So I came on board to help develop that sector, like that part of our business. And since then, me and my husband got married. We took over the whole company. So we own now TeraGanix. I am the director of agriculture. So I am developing the protocols, leading the sales team, and we're basically today, my heart is fully in how to help farmers in the United States and Canada, Northern America. And our big mission is how to help them be two things: more profitable and more regenerative. Because we believe in not as much as organic farming as we believe in regenerative farming, in using the right resources, not just substituting them for something different, because organic doesn't always mean nutrient density, right? It doesn't always mean that the food is actually better. So we want to go towards that route, but we also believe that farmers need to be supported to get off the chemical treadmill and to become profitable, because there's a big gap in trying to make regenerative scalable if it's not profitable. And we have farmers today that are like, there's a high debt in farming today. There's around 600 billion loans out there, and farms are living, they're one bad season away from losing a generational farm. And we see that a lot because we talk with hundreds and hundreds of farms. We work with hundreds of farms. And our biggest mission is, again, making them profitable, keeping them in business, saving the land, making sure that the land doesn't go to data centers and doesn't sell out to the billionaires of the world that are going to use it for the things that we don't want them to use it for. So that is our mission today, and that's what we're very much fighting for.
Okay, well, I'm sorry, but I got to go back to the camels.
I know.
Come on, man, that's amazing. All right. When you said camel farming, I'm like, what the heck is camel farming? So you were farming for feed for these cattle or for these camels?
We were making feed. So we were making like this nutritious food that we were selling to farms that had camels for racing. Do you know a little bit about race horses? Like the business of, it's a big business, right?
Oh, hell yeah.
It's a similar thing with racing camels in the Middle East. So it's a bit basically the same thing. It's a sport. And we were trying to make food better, healthier, less of that like energy sugar crush that these camels get, and then they have like health issues. We wanted to give them more sustainable food source that is still supporting their performance, but also making them healthier, making their gut healthy, because they are ruminants, and you don't want to feed them high sugar, and you don't want to feed them carbohydrates, and that's what we were doing.
Okay, so I gotta ask: do they race around a track? Is it a straight run? How do you race a camel?
Well, you have a track similar as horses, and they can do sprints, or they go out in the desert and they do marathons.
Damn.
So they basically just drive with SUVs next to them, and they have now they have like robo jockeys. So they have a speaker. So whoever's training the camel, they recognize the voice is talking to the camel. So there's not much live jockeys anymore. They're mostly robots today. I think, if I still remember the facts, they're made out of vacuum cleaner motors or something like that. It's super funny. So they have a speaker, so they talk to them. So they're basically driving with SUVs. So yeah.
That's
you have a sprint, you have a track, or you do a marathon. Depends. Those are two different races.
Very interesting. I'm sorry to take it way off subject, but you have such a cool past that I just had to ask. Yeah. All right. So you fed them using organic waste, and then bokashi it to get the nutrition up in the.
That was my next journey. My next journey, as I left that business, we were feeding them, instead of carbohydrates, instead of dates and honey, we were feeding them with rice, proper nutrition, proper oil, selenium, vitamin E, and all of those things. And then after 2020, which was a really hard year for businesses, especially small businesses, especially if you worked international, because you couldn't fly, we couldn't go anywhere. I started working for a bigger company, and we work with organic waste management. Yeah. And we use bokashi method to do that. So that was a different business that I then did a switch.
Okay. So, but were you in the end making feeds, or were you making kind of like a plant food or a fertilizer with the bokashi?
With bokashi, no. With bokashi, we were making a fertilizer. We were making compost. So we were trying to close the loop. So in certain little cities, little villages, we tried to collect organic waste, go through the bokashi method, and then have basically compost, fertilizer, and then have community gardens, put it back in, and grow food, community garden food. So the project was called From Food Waste to Food Resource. So we're trying to be like, let's be no organic waste. Let's flip it to a resource right away and close that loop inside of a community, so we don't even have to take it to landfill or other bigger processing compost facilities. So we can close it inside of actual community. So we did a lot of pilot projects like that, some in South America, some in Europe, like France, Portugal, and then we did some in the Middle East, UAE, and then we started doing that in US. But before I set up any bigger projects in US, I already joined the TeraGanix team and started with commercial agriculture.
Got you. Well, that's just kudos to you. I mean, that is such an important thing that here in America, we just don't get it. Like, you try to convince people that, like, hey, look, you have all of these resources around you that are going to waste, when you in turn could create community gardens, you could create, but I don't want to play with stinky compost. It's not stinky if you're doing it right. And it's just this, I don't want to get my hands dirty. Well, they're not dirty. They're in good soil. It's healthy for you. Like, we used to roll around in this. We used to eat mud pies when we were kids. Why do you think we were so healthy compared to the kids nowadays? And so there's this stigmatism behind, my food has to be perfectly washed. It needs to be, dipped in friggin' acids and everything else to make sure that there's no viruses or bacteria on it.
Well, where are you seeing that? Fun fact. in soil, don't ask me which ones, I didn't go that deep, but in soil, there are bacteria that actually affect us as antidepressants.
Mhm.
So, like working with soil, touching soil is literally an antidepressant.
Oh, hell yeah. And being around the plants. Like
Yeah.
the recent studies coming out talking about plant senses, they are categorically, undeniably, they have at least 20 senses. And the gut feeling across the board is there's probably a lot more that we haven't figured out yet. Humans have 5, 6 if you believe in ESP. Who's smarter? Right? Who is more advanced? Hey, we wipe ourselves off. They're going to be like, "You look at all the food we get."
Yeah.
They'll be composting us. I'm sorry. I love laughing about the fact, like,
Oh no, those are good ones.
yeah, who's really growing who here, peeps?
Yeah. Yeah. Who's harvesting who?
Right? I mean, anyway. So, all right. So, how did people in other countries take to your enthusiasm and your trying to teach them how to remove things from a waste stream and move them into something that's very productive?
Well, there are different aspects of it and like different layers why it works better in some countries than others. For example, Europe has a full biologic waste recycling. Like it's just like nothing there goes out of the, like it's always recycled and used separately. One of it is just like legislation is a few decades, and a few decades more advanced than here. So like at this point, it's been done for so long that like culturally you just don't know that there's other option. There is a no landfill option, right? So like this generation growing up today will not see biological waste go to landfills. It just doesn't happen. It's so ingrained. And then next thing is convenience and system, right? Like Europe at this point has developed a system that this is not inconvenient anymore. I think it's still pretty. Look, I tried 45 years ago. I tried to integrate this, like we call it, like it was a little kitchen composter, bokashi method. Let's talk quickly about that. It's basically an anaerobic process where you put in organic waste, you put in bokashi brand that has this beneficial microbes in it. It starts fermenting it. So there's no rotting, there's no bad smell. It's that like little acidic kind of like making beer smell, right? Because it's fermenting it. And then one good thing about it is it starts shrinking, right? So you can fill up a small kitchen caddy for a few weeks because it keeps shrinking it, the biological waste. And then there's, it's not rotting, so you don't have to take it out 2 days after you've put it in trash, right? So I try to like integrate that. In Europe, it's used everywhere at this point. Like we were growing really fast at that point, putting it in like majority of the homes around the countries in Europe. Here it was pretty hard to sell that unless somebody was really into composting and having their own garden. Then yes, then that was not a hard sell. But just to sell it to households, it was pretty hard if they didn't have a a garden, because it was like inconvenient, and also because we didn't there is no system to take organic waste, right? Like there's no system for that in majority cities around the United States. So they were like, okay, what do I do with this now? If I'm a condo and I don't have a garden, then why, then if I put it into a landfill outside trash, then what did I do with it? And that just made sense. I was like, okay, if we cannot have a system behind it, then it's inconvenient for the end user. So I was working at that point with, we call it like a curbside composting things, right? There's a lot of projects around United States. So we started partnering with them. So there has to be a system in place. Not everything should be on the end user. I think I think there's a play between supply and demand, right? We have to start demanding better things and then the system will change and so on. But some things have to be top down
Yep.
because end users cannot change everything, especially if like, okay, you're composting and now what? If I don't have a garden, then what I'm doing with this? And then I put it in the same bin and it then goes to landfill. And it's just extra work for no outcome at that point, right? So that was the thing. It was really hard to integrate that here because there is no system for it. Like there's no system for it. So that was a hard sell in United States compared to other.
When I first moved to California, I crash landed here 2 days before COVID, before the world got shut down. And so for the first 3 or 4 months, my partner, who's since passed, and I were just researching. I'm a soil biologist, soil engineer, so I do a lot of reading and deep diving on microbes and what they do in the communities. And so we were both like, wait a minute, what is going on with this? And neither one of us were like going to take the vaccine. It was just not an option. They're not going to buy into that BS. And yep. So, we'd research all morning, and then by noon we'd just go, all right, you know what? Let's clear our heads, and we take our pup and, go walk on the beach or go walk in a park. And I mean, everything was wide open. I mean, I was fortunate. I'm not in LA. I'm up in Oxnard, so they didn't really enforce. Mm-hmm. There wasn't as much enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say that. And so after about 3 or 4 months, I started really paying attention to like what was going on around me. And one of the things I noticed was that people had these big green trash bins. They had a blue bin for recycling. They had a gray bin for rubbish and a green bin for yard waste. And I was like, what the heck is this? Like, why are people hauling off one of the most valuable things off of their property that can ensure the fertility, long-term soil benefit, buildup of organic, all the beneficial things? Like, they're strip mining their soil by taking that off instead of like chipper. They should never have a bag mower. It should all be mowers. They're shreds. There should be no lawn waste. And the same with trees. Like, all the trees and shrubs that get pruned should get chipped right on site and spread back underneath the bush. So then I started chasing it, and like I followed where they were taking this stuff, and I got to these giant compost facilities, and I was horrified at not only the smell, the practices, like what they were doing, and I started like poking around a little bit more, and eventually a friend of mine who I met very early on when I got out here, because of another person that I knew, was like, oh, well, why don't we have a compost cup, like a first annual Ventura County compost cup? And I'm like, Eric, that's an awesome idea. Like, none of us are doing shit anyway. So we put together the first annual Ventura County compost cup, and we brought in, I think we had 10 judges. 5 of them were from compost companies, these big commercial compost companies. And we talked, before the actual process, we would talk to these people to say, hey, this is what we're doing, this is what we're thinking, what do you think? And we talk a little bit about their composting methodologies and what's really happening with all this stuff, and quickly learned that they're underwater. Like, there's so much green waste coming in that they're literally dumping it. They have to get rid of it. They can only store so much on the site before they get fined or find out business, literally. And so they wouldn't really like come out and say it that we're just dumping it in any farms we can get. Just we'll pay the trucking to get it to them, just to get it out of here. And I'm like, yeah, but it's not even mature. I go, that if you put that on orchards and stuff, you're going to kill the trees. And like, well, we don't like openly discuss that, but we tell them it's a good herbicide. So they put them around, on their tree rows to keep the weeds down. I said, well, that's a great use for it. But, I'm a little bit concerned that, you're probably not helping the health of the trees. So I just went down this incredible rabbit hole. And the one thing that I learned that was most valuable out of all of that, once we had the competition, we had over 80 samples that came in. I had to microscope over 50 friggin' samples by myself. Talk about a lot of work. Needless to say, the ones that were nasty anaerobic, I just said, no, that doesn't qualify. Get rid of it. The ones that did qualify, some of them were kind of anaerobic, but there was very little biology in any of them. So we have these 10 experts, right? 5 of them from the compost industry. We had a research scientist from Rodale Institute, another bunch of other people who are either promoting, biochar or other vermicompost, judging. And every single one of them, except for the research scientist for Rodale, looked at the samples. They didn't touch it. They looked at it and they picked one. The research scientist from Rodale took some and smelled it. She picked her winner based on the smell. And so I'm like, these people don't even know how to look at compost. They don't even have a clue as to what is good and what is bad. Like, this is like dealing with kindergartners here. And so I was horrified at the lack of real intelligence in these industry leaders about what was really going on.
Yeah.
In the whole process. So needless to say, a long story short, I didn't mean to go on that rant, but bottom line is that, I was horrified as to what I'm finding here, where they do have a program to try to prevent this stuff from going to landfills. It's still, a lot of it's getting landfilled even after they compost it because they can't get rid of it.
Yeah.
So I totally understand what you were saying about people saying, well, I don't have a garden, or I don't have houseplants, or I don't have, I live in a condominium, and why should I go to the effort of doing this? And it's like, well, all right, let's change our whole thinking about it. Like, you could take that and sprinkle it on your lawns, outside your condo front door, or in your bushes and the shrubs. Everybody's condominium has usually some kind of green area. Mm. But that's the whole thing with, like, people here in the United States. They're so hyper fixed on things that probably shouldn't be, whether it's the damn phones and the social media, or, getting tied up in the drama of, nonsense that's going on all around us.
Yeah.
And it's kind of been one of my goals, is to try to get people to open their eyes to the fact that,
but also the legislations are, knowing then, now I'm not so deep into those legislations. I'm more deep into like agriculture, right? And looking at how these decisions are made and who makes these decisions of like, okay, how do we insure a crop? And then they're like, okay, you need to do this and this and this and this. And then you look at what things that farms need to do to get insurance. And then you're like, oh my gosh, like, these practices are not just outdated, they're harmful. But if they don't do it, even if they know better, they're not going to get insurance, and they're going to and they can risk a whole year. And I'm looking at like how these legislations are how these decisions are made, and like who makes them. It kind of explains why the things are the way they are. A lot of these people that sit there have no idea how things work in practice, and they're just following a checkbox, and then you have to comply with that checkbox even though the practice you're doing is awful.
So how are you getting around farm insurance? Because that's always a huge issue. As soon as you say I'm using biologicals, you can't qualify. Even if you say I'm going to just cut my my NPK back and use some biologicals, you still can't qualify for insurance. How are you getting around that?
We're doing input reduction with using biologicals, and we're doing it we're doing, for example, like a full NPK spectrum reduction, 30% first year, and they can get around with that. Okay, they can get around with certain number. We do first year 50% reduction on N, and we can kind of like, our program is efficiency 1 to 10, 10 units of what we do to 1 unit of soil applied nitrogen. And we kind of can get around with those. There are some awful insurance things that they need to comply with. For example, like putting seed down with fungicide. How does that make sense? Like, if you want your seed to germinate and you want your roots to develop, you need fungi. And then now you're putting down it with fungicide. It's almost like it's insanity. I mean, to some point, some of these things are insane. And then we're trying to kind of like let them still do it so they get insurance, but then let's double up on biologicals, and then biologicals will eventually win, kind of a thing. And they're getting great results, and we're getting around it. And there are programs. We're trying to look for programs where they like there are some R&D programs when you're like, okay, I'm going with an experiment, and I'm going to try to prove, yes, we can do this reduction and it's actually going to be great on soil 2-3 years down the road. And we're trying to get farms into those programs because then they are insured because they are part of this R&D, right? And that's how they can deploy our protocols. They save money with deploying it because on average, our farms are saving the ground crops farm, not the tree farms and orchards in California. That's a different budget. But let's say ground crops are saving around $50 an acre on nitrogen, which is big margin, like their margins are shrinking. They're really not making a lot of money. Their input costs are getting higher and higher, and commodity costs are not going up as much as input costs are going. So getting $50 back on nitrogen reduction, plus you go into this R&D program, which kind of ensures you that you can experiment. And then if you do prove that you've like helped your soil, blah, 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 then they also get some tax credits back and stuff like that. So sometimes we can double their profit margin with pairing with those programs. Our goal is we don't want them depending on government programs. Like we are fully libertarians here. We don't like control. We don't like that. But if there are some programs that we can help them first year go on this journey, and that will kind of help them double their profit and get them out of loans in the first couple of years, then we will use it as a tool. So that's one thing that we're doing. But otherwise, this year we're partnering with, in the next 2 weeks, we're going to actually be more vocal about it. We have some partners that can help get Midwest farms back some tax credits. So on average, $30 to $60 per acre. So that's a lot of money for 1,000, 2,000 or 5,000 acre farm on top of our protocols. And our protocols actually qualify for that. So we can double them money back. So that's one thing we're doing. But otherwise, we've been doing this for 4 years and we've not had insurance problems because we are in that scope. Another thing is we've actually had farms that did lose their crop because of hail or stuff like that, things, weather conditions that you cannot expect. And they were actually happy because they got some like insurance payout, but also they spent so much less on inputs on the failed crop. Because of what because of our protocols, that they were like, okay, this actually worked out well for us because we didn't put so much money into a crop that failed, basically. So we've been in that scope, so it's pretty safe. But yes, it's hard. It's hard to get somebody to be really work on their soil health because you need to cut chemicals out, and we don't do it first year everything. Like we go slowly so there so the soil adjusts and so on. But it's really hard for them to cut chemicals out because they're in this feedback loop from insurances, from banks, the loans they have, from
equipment,
the crops they're putting down that are GMO crops that need specific chemical because they were designed that they can upsell you 3-4 more chemicals to grow that specific seed. I'm going to use a bad word. I mean, it's a cartel.
That's not a bad word.
I don't know, but I just feel like we can't even talk about these things openly. It's a cartel. It's a chemical cartel, and that's kind of what we're fighting against. We're being successful, but it definitely is hard. It's hard.
Wow, I'm really impressed that you or whoever figured out how to classify this as an R&D approach. And you said something like $50 an acre you can get back, or you're going to in your new partnership.
Yeah. So you can, so right now with our protocol, they're saving just nitrogen, cutting nitrogen. We do other input reductions, right? But just nitrogen is our big one. They're saving, so their return on investment is on average $50 an acre. And now this protocol qualifies for this program that has tax credits. We've just realized and learned, and now we're partnering with another company that's going to help us with these tax credits, and they can get another $30 to $60 of tax credits back on a whole farm, basically. So this protocol qualifies for that, so we can double that back. So yes, we're trying to be creative. We do not agree with the system, but we live in a system. So we're trying to be creative, how to find loops around it, how to use what's out there to help farms get money back, get more profitable, grow, like have better soils, grow healthier food, and just for them to be healthier. You know how many farms we talk to daily that have cancer, and like we know where that cancer is coming from.
Yep.
So like it's like we like there are very hard conversations. Like these farmers are hurting, they're hurting in margins, they're hurting with all the loans that they have, all the debt that they have on their land. And we're really like, our mission is let's keep that land in hands of American farmers and not banks and not data centers. And we're looking for whatever we can find to be creative to get around it.
So, what does your program cost per acre?
So to do nitrogen reduction program, it's about $6 to $14 an acre. It depends on the volume, right? If you're doing 3,000 acres, it's $6. If you're doing a couple of hundred acres, it's $14. So it depends on the volume, but it's pretty cheap to get $50 back.
Right, because I mean, it's paying for itself.
It's paying for itself plus $50 after the product cost.
I'm just taking some notes because I do work with some farmers too that need this kind of like faith or hope. Because you're right, like they're all suffering health issues.
They are,
and the health costs are going through the roof. So that means that's going to eat away at the little money that they do make. They all know the dangers of this, but they're trapped in a cycle that they can't get out of. So you're spot on about all of this stuff.
Yeah. And we're like, it's hard for us too. Like we're fighting against so many things, right? Like legislation, this, that, farmers are afraid to risk it sometimes, right? There's an uphill battle. But then now after 4 years, we have some farms that have been with us since day one. And after 4 years, quite a few of them are out of they're out of the worst. They've actually remediated their soil and they're so low on inputs. And they're growing great, like they're getting great like crop performance and all that. And once you see that, it's like it's all worth it. Like it's all worth it. When I see those winners and I see like, yes, there's 3,000 acres we saved here. There's 5,000 acres that's going to the next generation that's not going to drag their house down. There's this, like, those are so worth it.
You know what I feel every day I go to work. It's so rewarding, especially when people see the difference and they're like, what is that, magic? What are you doing? And it's like, no, I'm just showing you what nature does. That's not magic.
We're just showing what nature does if you back off a little bit.
Yep.
That's what we're doing.
All right. So before we continue on with the farming, I've got to ask, how did the Arab nations take your approach to composting and then building soil and community gardens? Were they different culturally?
They're pretty open to it. Those countries have they don't have great soils, right? They don't have great weather conditions. They don't have a lot of water. and they're really trying to do the best they can. So they're pretty open for stuff like this, and they have quite good government initiatives supporting stuff like that. So it wasn't that hard to set up some projects there. It does take time. Culturally, they really want to like meet you and like you. They're not just pure business. I think here it's more pure business. There is very personal. So it does take more time to get some deals there. But once you're in, and if you don't mess it up, then you're in, and then they will push you forward, and they're pretty open for it. And like I said, their governments are pretty like they're trying to do, like they know they need to do something, like they know they need to take steps towards being more independent and save what they can save.
Nice. All right. Well, that's again very hopeful that we got a chance as a species. Some cultures are actually listening. Tell me about
South America. South America is so much more in tune with the nature.
That's where I was going next. Was what happened in South America? What was
their practices? They're pretty and like innovative when it comes to stuff like that. They're like biological farming is a big deal there. They are using chemicals, but they're trying their best to stretch that chemical and use as little as possible and make it as effective as possible. So they're pretty good when it comes to farming. More in touch, I think, even more than Europe.
Interesting. Now, countries, were you in Brazil?
No, I was mostly in. We used to work with some Brazilian partners, but when I was working in organic waste management, I was mostly in like Ecuador, Peru. Where else was I? I did a lot of projects in Mexico. Those were countries. Chile. Those were the countries.
Nice. Okay. Well, that's again very encouraging, because like I know Brazil is really gearing up to take over the corn and soybean market, literally.
Yeah.
And they're poised to do it because they can outcompete us night and day.
Super productive, and also their climate allows them to have 2 harvests.
Mm-hmm.
So they can outcompete Northern America in a lot of things because it allows them to have 2 harvests. And that is also a thing that allows them to innovate faster because they can get 2 results, 2 data trials in 1 year.
Yep. Interesting. All right, cool. Well, that's great. All right, let's get back to solving America's problems. All right, so after 4 years, are you seeing like soil texture change? Like, is it getting more tilthy? And all right, elaborate, please.
We're seeing organic matter increase in organic matter. We are seeing a lot of results in water retention or drought resistance. So one thing is because of organic matter increase, organic matter, that acts like a sponge. So it holds more water. So that's one thing. Another thing is these microbes are also working mechanically. So they are changing the soil aggregation. So they're making these little tunnels that become like a reservoirs for water. So that's one thing. And then I have this couple of specific farms in mind that have been now they're going in 4th year of putting down microbes in furrow at planting. And they're getting such great results in root development and they're no-till, right? So they're not tilling. Yeah. So that's an important part is no-till because now they're seeing that over these 3 years that they've been doing that, their soil aggregation started changing. These roots are becoming longer and longer because the pathways have already been created in the previous years. So because of that, naturally, every year, their roots, even on crops like corn that are every year, like they're annuals, they still see longer roots because of that. And also that affects water retention and affects drought resistance. So big thing that farms are reporting is they really have more resistant crops, especially if there's like no rain. The crops are performing really well. I think those are the biggest things. Yes, we also see the nutrient density of the crop is a big deal. We have around Tennessee, Oklahoma, that part, we have a lot of pasture farmers, and they're saying that they can feed more heads of cattle with the same amount because they're noticing that there's higher nutrient density and they eat less because of that, right? So they can feed more. That we've seen yield increase too, but higher nutrient density does tell you that there's something happening in the soil, because one thing about nitrogen is a lot of that nitrogen, synthetic nitrogen that you put in the soil, ends up in forms of nitrates. They are absorbable by plants, but they're also highly leachable. So they start leaching, and these are negative ions, right? Nitrates are negative ions. So when they start leaching down, going lower and lower in the soil will try to balance it, and it will pull the positive ions, which are calcium, magnesium, and potassium. So the leaching nitrates are also pulling down this. Potassium is a macronutrient, but calcium and magnesium are micronutrients. So they're pulling them down, so they're not available in the root zone anymore. So that's one thing. Nitrogen is actually hurting our nutritional value of our crops because of that. And so we've seen that cutting nitrogen in soil, having it less in those nitrates form, doesn't go into groundwater, it doesn't leach, and it's not pulling all of the other nutrients down. So that's one.
Yeah, that's an incredible understanding. I've tried to explain that to people before, and people just don't understand it. They don't get it. And it's like, well, this has to do with cation exchange capacity, right? So, but there's also the magnetism that's causing that to happen, because everybody wants to stay neutral. So if you have a positive, you need a negative. If you have a negative, you need a positive. And so, thank you for stating that, because that cannot be overstated.
Yeah, no, it's a big deal.
It is.
And we're seeing it in crops. Like we're seeing, like when we're doing analysis, a crop analysis, we're seeing like the protein value, nutrient value going up as a consequence of it. Another thing is there's a big aluminum toxicity.
Oh, God.
I see the pain point, right? And especially you can see it in trees, because with other crops that are annual, you replant it, right? You reset it. With trees, you don't reset it. It builds up. It keeps building up. So what we're seeing right now, and we're trying to solve right now in like Central California with like orchards, citruses, and so on, you can see there's a high aluminum toxicity, and it's killing the trees. And a lot of the trees are producing 10 years less than they did before. I mean, that's a big loss. That's a big pain. 10 years less of production, trees that take at least 3 to 5 years to even start producing, and then lose another 10 years. That's a big deal. And again, it is again connected to the other things, but again connected to nitrogen again, because with too much nitrogen in soil will also make your soil acidic, and acidic soil makes aluminum more soluble. And now you have it available. Before it was locked, now you have it available. Now it's in the root zone. Now the trees are basically absorbing it and just building it up to a point that they can't produce anymore. So that's another thing we're targeting right now in trees, is aluminum toxicity with our protocols.
So the other piece of the puzzle too is that the nitrogen use collapses aggregates, which makes everything go anaerobic, and it makes them use more water, which makes things even worse. So it's like a downward spiral. And you're absolutely right about, I mean, have you seen the levels of aluminum in the soils? it has skyrocketed all across the world.
Skyrocketing.
I won't get into the conspiracy theories.
That's not a conspiracy. That's
no.
it.
Yep. So,
oh yeah, we know. It's skyrocketing.
We know exactly what's going on, right?
Yeah, we know exactly what's going on. Yeah.
So bottom line is that you have this triple negative effect. You need more water. The soil can't take more water. Everything's going anaerobic. It's digesting and making the aluminum bioavailable, which if you were the other way around in a more alkaline soil and not as anaerobic, it's harmless. It won't be brought up by the plant. So I can see how with the addition of your product and building the tilth, that you would get a beneficial result that would potentially help turn it around. I mean, once you get that aluminum toxicity built up too much, those branches are just going to stop producing.
Yeah, and we literally have videos of branches just like done.
Yep, and that's when you need to prune them and compost them, and then compost them aerobically so that you're tying up the aluminum and then put that back underneath the tree. But these are practices that are theoretical in the minds of farmers. Like, oh, well, there's no proof to that, even though we've got tons of proof. But again, farmers do what farmers do, right? I've been doing it this way for 30 years. I'm going to keep doing it this way. So I applaud you at the fact that you've gained as much traction as you have in the 4 years. I know I've been beating my head against the wall for pushing 20 now. And it wasn't until COVID that people started to really open their eyes to the fact, like, what am I doing? What am I eating? Why am I working this hard? And why am I going nowhere?
It's true. It's true. It was a big mirror back of like what's happening, like what's really happening. And I think people care today much more. They ask more questions.
Right.
They
ask intelligent questions.
They ask intelligent questions. They do. I love it.
So do I.
The conversations are so much better today than they were 4 years ago.
Oh, 100%.
And even when the questions are like provocative towards like, how this can work, I love them because I'm like, you're asking, you're here. Even though you're trying to be a little like, I know you want to know, like you're here. Like, I love it.
So true. And then they actually listen.
Yeah.
I used to talk and I could see people's eyes just glaze over. And it was like, damn it, man. I'm not talking over your head. I'm talking common sense. And why are you glazing over? Why are you just not even listening to what I'm trying to explain to you? And I don't see that as much anymore. I see intelligent questions. I see curiosity, which was something I didn't see prior to COVID. And I see a lot more people open-minded, even if they're not like trying to go down the path. They're at least like, I never thought about it that way.
They're at least thinking about it. They're at least they're. I feel like it's a big shift is in people are demanding, and I love these two words, informed consent. It's my big thing is like they're demanding information and then they want to consent to an outcome. And I think that's a really important shift that is happening is like the whole society is doing that. And it is global because I still have a lot of like friends and family and like partners in Europe and Middle East. I still have a lot of friends there and like talking to everyone. It is global. Like this questioning is global and it's so much more fun right now. Like it's so much more fun. Like it is fun because before you had to like look for that 1% of people that you could have real conversations with. Now it's so much easier to have conversation with like average people that are actually really thinking about almost everything, and it's great.
I'm so glad to have met you and to have you behind me because I'm old and tired after beating myself against the wall for so many years. So congratulations and go get him, Tiger. So one other thing we wanted to touch base on is roll it back to the hay production and the nutritional values. We saw a similar thing in corn and beans and in hay, where you get the water level down. Animals don't need the water; they can drink the water. They don't need the water in their food. The density, the energy. So energy is the amount of energy the animal has to expel to digest it. So these types of biological foods are like 5 to 10x easier for the animal to digest. And that means less energy that they need to expel to digest it, which means less food they need to consume. So I'm so glad that you've picked up on that piece of the puzzle, because that's another one that sells it.
And another interesting thing is how, let's say, beef is raised, right? We had, I think like our market, like our beef market was so big in omega-6, which is inflammatory. And now we're seeing with like a little diet change and basically probiotics, even just at the end of the life cycle, can convert so much omega-6 back to omega-3 and get that like inflammatory out of meat. And it's so interesting that how fast these things happen. Even like soil, you can significantly change decades of degradation of soil in 3 years. Mm-hmm. Like you can see significant results in 3 years. Like I said before with beef, you can feed it a few weeks before, I don't even know what to call it, harvest time. I don't know what the word for that
is. Go to market time.
Yeah, go to market time a few weeks before, and you can already see the switch in omega-6 back to omega-3. Like how fast these changes are through microbial activity. Like they're so fast. It's incredible.
Well, I'm glad that you brought up the omegas, because those are something that are antagonistic in us, but also we're not getting the threes that we need. Yeah. And unfortunately, we've degraded our oceans to a point that it's kind of scary and horrifying that, we don't even have a lot of the feeds or fish stocks that are of breeding age, because we've depleted them with these factory farms in the oceans. So if we wanted to get more omega 3s into our diet, it's too expensive. I mean, the price of food is skyrocketed. Anyway, enough bitching. Let's talk about corn and beans in a no-till system. How the heck are they doing it? Are they cover cropping?
Some of them are cover cropping, yeah. But no. A lot of them are even corn and corn with no, or corn and soybeans with no tillage. They just go, and after harvest, you can just spray the microbes and it will speed up half the time of the composition and the soil. So they're just doing that and they're getting great results.
So they're actually spraying the stubble, and the microbes are eating or decomposing the stubble and turning it into organic.
Yeah, at the end, yeah.
That's powerful. I remember a guy I worked with, 15, 16 years ago. And he's like, if you've developed a product that gets rid of corn stubble, you're going to be a billionaire. And I was like, well, talk to me. Why do you say that? He goes, well, the corn stubble causes a lot of problem in the replanting process.
Yeah, because it just doesn't break down and it's hard and it's like, yeah.
And it gets hung up in the planter, breaks the little mechanisms that drops the seeds. And so they kind of had no choice but to till it because they couldn't just plant over it. So that's why I asked you about, how they're doing it. So actually what they're doing is after harvest, they go back and spray
it, and it kind of speeds us the decomposition. And even if it doesn't fully break down, it softens it, you can see that it speeds up, and then it's ready for next round. A lot of our farms, besides the nitrogen reduction, are doing different applications of microbes in the soil, and they're just building up their soil biology. And with that, all like the organic matter decomposition is faster, and also it unlocks the nutrients. So we have a lot of that going on. So they're doing, like, their touch points are at planting, after harvest. Those are like the big touch points where they're applying microbes and getting great results with that.
Are they only applying your product, or are they applying other products as well?
In that one pass, in the protocol, just clarify a little bit for me.
Yes, so like when you said, well, they're using microbes twice a year, is it always been your product, or are they adding other microbes in, like bugs?
They're adding our microbes, and then sometimes they're adding mycorrhizae. We also suggest them. So one thing that we are today is we want to give them the best advice possible, even if that is not us. So we do suggest them add mycorrhizae because we don't sell it. We have partners that sell it and so on. So we do suggest other microbes too. But mostly the fermentation, they're doing it with our microbes. It's called TCM. So basically, it's a consortium of microbes, different groups of microbes working together, from yeast to lactobacillus. It works great if you can add mycorrhizae. We don't have that, but we do have partners that have it. We help source it. We definitely recommend that. It's a great thing to do at planting because you do want to have fungi in that soil too.
So who are you recommending in the mycorrhizae department?
We work with, our partner is SGC, so they are in California.
Are they liquid or powder?
They're both. Then I think it's, I forgot the name. I can send you some links. I forgot the name.
The reason I ask this is this was back a number of years ago. I work with an expert who spent his whole life. He was a prodigy of mushrooms, and he set his focus on mycorrhizae and studied under Chappie, who was the gentleman that brought the world's attention to mycorrhizae because no one ever knew that it existed. Yeah. Couldn't see it. Needless to say, when I got involved with him, I was like, look, I bought this product. It cost $50 for this little bag. And I go, I'm really not seeing a big difference of it. Can you test it for me and just tell me if their spores are viable or anything? And he's like, oh, absolutely. I am a quality control engineer. I'm one of two in the United States that anytime a company wants to bring in a product from, outside our borders, they have to go through one of us.
That's, yeah.
Say this is valid or this is bullshit. And I'm like, awesome. So I sent him a bag. I actually sent him 3 bags, 3 different batches.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I want you to, do your test on this. And he only charged me like $50. So it wasn't a deal breaker, considering I paid $50 for the bags. And he came back and he's like, no, these are not viable. The spores are all shrunk, or there's no spores at all. And he goes, look, unfortunately, I can't talk about this. I can't tell you this. I can't give you a report on this because there's all kinds of conflicts of interest. And I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, the mycorrhizae world is very incestual. Like everybody knows everybody. Like there's all kinds of backdoor dealings and, white labeling and without, full disclosure on what's happening. And he goes, that company that you sent me the spores for was a dear friend of mine and actually is the what do you call him? Godfather of my son. And I'm like, oh, damn, I'm sorry, Efren. He goes, no, it's okay. Look, I had conversations with him for years about quality control and that he should do quality control after every batch to verify that he actually is making progress. He goes, well, unfortunately, he sold out. He sold out of the business, and the product that he made was pretty good. I'm not going to say it was the best in the world, but it was reliable. And he goes, that company was bought out by a Chinese company. And when I approached them about quality control, they said, no, we do it in-house. And he goes, your batches were batches that was produced by them and not my good friend. So I'm like, okay, well, that makes me feel better. But unfortunately, that company today is the largest manufacturer in the U.S. of mycorrhizae.
Yeah, we don't. Yeah. No, we work with small guys. We know. Yeah, I can send you a couple of recommendations. Great companies, small companies. We just in general don't like to work with anyone that with big ag. We feel like there's so many great companies that are trying to do well and they're not getting rich because they're doing good. It's kind of like those go together. So that's one thing. And we are big advocates of liquid microbes, not dried, because they're in liquid, they're alive. They're for sure alive. All our commercial guys are activating it so that when you activate it, you see that it's alive. Like you see it, you smell it, you see it with your own eyes. you check the pH. So basically, there's a lot of indicators that those microbes are very much alive.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too, is that he explained to me that there's 3 propagules that the industry standard uses to measure. One is called spore, one is called hyphae, and one is called infection sites. He goes, we have proven beyond a shadow of a doubt the infection site is a viable propagule. It will propagate in the soil. And he goes, spores, if they're not shriveled, we know, validated years and years and years of data proving that the spores are viable. He goes, but the hyphae, there is no documentation anywhere that says that the hyphae are actually viable in the soil as a propagule. And he goes, that's how they get away with selling you that, oh, I have X amount of propagules per bag. And so if you're not careful, you're getting a product that's got hyphae, but very little spore or very little infection sites. So that's another whole game. And I highly recommend that, you reach out to this guy and test some of the products that you're recommending, just so you know. And another thing too is the one that I work with, BioRadis out of Spain. Every time I buy a batch, a box, I will send a couple different samples to Efren from a couple of different jars.
Yeah.
And the one thing that has been constant is they're usually 2 to 5 times more than they say they are. So I can use 3 to 5 times less in my application rates than they require. So I'm saving a ton of money on the fact that I don't need to use as much per gallon of water for outstanding colonization rates, like 30-40% pretty much guaranteed after one application, which is insane. I just do 3 or 4 applications and maybe get to 20.
Yeah.
Anyway, we can talk about that after the fact. I don't want to get anybody in trouble or upsetting your sponsors. So, all right. So we talked about the other applications of microbes. Talked about the fact that you're figuring out how to deal with root stubble, which is great, and how you don't have to cover crop, which is another problem because depending on where you are, they kind of play games with the seeds. Now, I don't know if you knew this, but like my farmer friend in Illinois, when we started, I started pushing him on cover cropping and the importance of maintaining roots and microbes in the soil throughout the winter, even though the ground freezes. And he's like, all right, I'm willing to listen. So I hooked him up with a research scientist out of Rodale, who was a specialist in cover cropping. We dialed in on crimson clover. And he was like, oh, that's great. All right, let me find the prices. So crimson clover was like $150 to $200 per acre. And the winter rye was like 25, right? So he's like, I can't justify spending, $150, $200 an acre when I can get this for 25 an acre. And I'm like, all right, well, what did she say? And he goes, yeah, she said that the winter rye is fine for my zone. I'm like, all right, do it. So he did it. But then come spring, what happened was the winter rye was high enough that it was going to cause problems with the seeding.
Yeah.
But it was low enough, it was immature enough that when he tried to crimp it and roll it, it just stood right back up again.
Yeah.
So he was desperate. He goes, I don't know what to do. And he goes, I'm going to have to till it. I'm like, all right, don't panic. Just set your discs for like 1 inch.
Yeah, 1 inch.
He's in the top.
Yeah.
Top to 6 to 8 inches. So you'll be fine. You'll lose a percentage of it, but you'll be okay. So he did it, and he came back like the next day. He called me and was like, I got clots. I got clumps everywhere. I'm like, what? Send me a video. He sent me a video. I go, those are aggregates, dude. That's great news. And he goes, but it's all clumpy. I go, don't worry about the clumps. Squeeze the clumps. They'll stick together in your palm. Every time you've picked up your soil with me on video, it falls between your fingers. Now you've got moisture value in your soil.
Yeah.
And he goes, but there's worms too. I go, worms? Are you fucking kidding me? That's great. His neighbor comes over, who's like an 85-year-old guy, third generation farmer. and he sees Kyle walking around in circles, talking on the phone with me and picking up dirt and looking at shit. And he pulls over and he walks out to talk to Kyle. And Kyle goes, "Hey, listen, my neighbor's here. I'll call you back later." I'm like, yeah, no problem. So his neighbor, he goes, "Look, I got clods." His neighbor's like, "What's a clod?" And so he explained it to him. And the guy looked at the clod. He goes, "It's full of worms." And Kyle goes, "Yeah, that's a good thing." And he goes, "I've never seen a worm in my life in these fields." That's how scary. Not only how beneficial the microbes are.
That's how fast.
That's how fast. And that's
how fast it happens.
Second year into biologicals.
Yeah.
So we know they work, and we know they work really well. And I'm glad you're such an enthusiast of this, because the other piece of the puzzle that people don't get is they can't see anymore. So oftentimes I'll go back to a project I did, like in the fall after I've done, 3 applications, two biologicals and 1 food in the summer. And I'll stare at the property and I'll just be like, smiling ear to ear. Client will come up and go, "Well, what are you doing? Are you okay? Why are you staring at this?" And I'm like, "Well, I love to see what happens when I do my job." And they're like, "Well, what are you seeing that I don't see?" I go, "Well, focus. Look closely at your hayfield, or look closely at your landscape. What do you see?" And you're like, "Oh my God, it's moving." I go, "Yeah, that's all the bugs." And I go, "Look at the birds." I'm like, "Holy shit, I've never seen so many birds in my life." And I go, "Yeah, you see, that's great. Well, look down in between. There's little toads and little worms and salamanders." Yeah. You brought the whole ecology back to this area that had nothing before.
Yeah.
And then they see it and they're like, "Oh my God, this is amazing. This is a miracle. What did you do?" I'm like, worked with nature.
Yeah, exactly.
So try to convince, some of the first years or second year to make mental note of observations of what they're actually seeing.
They are.
Yeah.
They are. Oh yeah. I mean, that's one thing about trial data, right? There are some things I cannot put in the book of trial data because they see it, they feel it, they feel that the crop is different, they feel that the soil is different. Of course, they've been working it for 20 years, they see the difference, they see the life. And some things are just you can't put it in the trial data, and it's so hard to show people it's so hard to sometimes to show people what we actually do, or the real extent of these results. So we try to go out there and we try to take field videos or their testimonials, and then we get random videos of "Oh, look at this, I just this field was dead, it was dead because they were putting down lagoon water," right? We work with a lot of dairies too, and they have tons of lagoon water, and then they just drop it on some fields just to get rid of it. And then of course it's just high in salt, salinity, and everything, is just killing the field. So we've been treating that lagoon water on one California farm for 2 years now. This is their second year, and they're like, "This field is productive for the first time." And you can see it, and some things just can't totally be measured. Like you said, you gotta stand there and watch it. And they know their fields, and they see it and they feel it. And we get so many text messages of "I know it's different." And it's so hard to show all of that to everyone else outside if you don't really test it and see it on your field. It's really hard.
It's you got to touch the nail hole in Jesus's palm to believe, right? That's kind of what we're up against.
Yeah.
The brainwashing and the greenwashing.
And that's why we try to go on so many field trips and post-harvest visits and so on, so that we talk with them, so they can tell us their observations on camera, and we record stuff and so on. And so much comes out, really so much comes out, and we try to post all of that, but it's really hard to consolidate all that into what we're really seeing out there.
Yep. Agreed. So how are you holding it all together? How are you managing all the business as well as the marketing, as well as the customer relationships? Are you working 20 hours a day or something crazy?
We are now a team of 10 people. So we're not big. We have 4 people that are kind of like, account managers. They're helping sales plus account manager. They're the ones when farms come in and they're interested, they walk them through, show them the pricing for them, what the return on investment would be. When farms decide what they want to do, write protocols for them, and then they basically hold their hands through the whole process. We don't just deliver the product, deliver the protocol, walk away. We help with timeline, make sure that we track when are they planting, that we track their applications so that we can remind them when they need to start mixing, when they need to apply it, and so on. So we're kind of like their project managers, if I say so. So we got 4 people that do that. Then we have 2 that help with marketing. And our people that go on field visits, they take videos, they record it, and then we have a team behind it that kind of like edits that and like pushes it out. We have 2 girls that are on logistics. There's a lot of logistics. Like in the last 4-6, this is our big peak season, right? Like this is the buying egg season. So we had, an insane amount of orders that go out. So we have to have we have 2 girls that are in logistics, making sure they're getting the best shipping quotes. Because we do fight for our people. We negotiate shipping quotes or stuff that we don't have control over, but we're trying to get those prices down as much as possible. We're trying to make sure that, if somebody is close to planting time, we've eaten so much shipping costs just to make sure that everyone gets their product on time so they can use it at the right time. We make sure that it doesn't freeze in transportation. We're tracking weather. So yeah, we're, it's a team of 10 people working really big, but everyone breeds this. We really love what we're doing. Like our whole team just loves what we're doing. We're also trying to track as much as possible the news, what's happening, trying to kind of estimate what's gonna happen. We were one of the first ones that started sending out newsletter before nitrogen prices went up. Hey guys, this is what's happening. Nitrogen prices will probably go up. Before a lot of people even dare to say that, and we're like, yeah, we might bite ourselves in the tongue one day, but also better safe than sorry. And we're trying to keep our clients informed and so they can make informed decisions. So we're also big in tracking and trying to estimate where the market's going to go, what's going to happen, how it's going to affect them, tracking the programs that they're out there that we really, honestly, nobody wants to go through these grants and all those things. That's the horrible work. But if we can find something that helps our farmers as a tool, then we're trying to do that too. So that's a lot of work.
I was going to say, yeah, it is. So how do you deal with the heat at this time of year? Like the deserts and California, it can get crazy really quick. Does heat affect the product?
You just don't want it to freeze. So that's the only thing microbes. Freezing would kill them. So that's the only thing we really have to be aware of. So a lot of our orders come in already into lock-in prices in November, December, and then we ship them out in March, April, just before planting, to avoid also so that it's as fresh as possible, so the shelf life is as long as possible, so they can post-harvest use it and so on, right? Because it depends what they're doing, but also to avoid freezing. But then we always track weather. We know how long it will take to get it to certain states. So then we're like, okay, there's 2 weeks of okay weather, ship it out now, kind of a thing, right? So we're tracking that.
How many states are you in now?
Almost every state, but the most of our clients are Midwest. So we're around, Corn Belt, Midwest, Iowa, Illinois, North Dakota, South Dakota, Kansas, Nebraska. That's a big a big hotspot. Then South, Oklahoma, Texas. We're a lot in cotton too, cotton pasture, all of those. Tennessee, Mississippi, that part. A lot in Pennsylvania, a lot in Florida, California, Oregon. We're in orchards, vineyards, trees, berries. I think those are the biggest hotspots. But we have something even in Canada. We have dairies in Canada. We have ground crops in Canada. So yeah, I mean, I think we're almost everywhere, if not in every state.
Wow, that's impressive. And what just for curiosity, what is your annual sales like?
In what way?
Like what is your typical annual sales? Like, is it 1 million? Is it 10 million? I mean,
we are between 2 and 3 million company. We're not big. We cut back a lot on revenue. It's a big deal. We have a whole episode on that. So TeraGanix was bought from the previous owners. So we cut a lot back on revenue because we took a path, and that was commercial agriculture. So we wanted to really focus. We wanted to go that route. We wanted to cut out what we called bad revenue. There was a lot of things that TeraGanix did that was actually dragging us down. Like, it wasn't profitable. It was actually costing us money. Me and my husband, we sold a house to cash flow it. We believed in this business so much that we sold the house to reinvest in the company, to take it the route we are right now. And now the last 2 years, we're scaling it back up in revenue. And it was a tough journey. It was a big business project, but that's we so believed in it. We so believed in it that we can do so much good. And we saw there's some tough decisions that we need to make, from suppliers to partners to because we inherited a lot, right? We bought the company, so we inherited a lot. So once we set our hearts on a mission, which was commercial agriculture, and we're still serving cannabis, we're still serving organic farmers, we're still serving gardeners, we're still doing all of that. We cut out any AI thing. We only have real people on the phone who will text you, call you, pick up the phone. We talk to everyone. If you order 1 gallon, you order 1 gallon. You don't know how to use it, we will talk to you. We have people on the phone that will talk to you. But our big path forward is helping commercial farmers. And it was rough. It was rough. I'm not going to lie. It's tough decisions, and we invested a lot of our personal money in it, and everything, put everything on the line, because we said that even if we fail, we need to do it. I'm I can't sleep if I don't I can't sleep if I don't see this through. If we fail, we're smart, we're gritty, we're business oriented, we'll reinvent, we can do it. We'll reinvent. But looking back and not giving it our all, I don't know, just didn't feel right. And now 4 years later, we started with, when you're trying to get your first farm to do the protocol, and now working with hundreds of farms and hundreds of thousands of acres that we're remediating and getting off that chemical treadmill. It feels so good. Not gonna lie. It's so rewarding.
Good for you. I can't give you enough kudos for taking that plunge. It's, people think, owning your own business, entrepreneurship, blah, blah, blah. Oh, it must be great. Must be nice. It's no, you work 7 days a week. You're stressed the hell out. You have ups and downs. You can't control them. It's not fun. I mean, yeah, I can take a day off if I want to, but chances are, if I want to, I probably can't.
Yeah.
Something will happen. A client will call. Something will break. But it's nice to know that you can. But again, it's.
I love this saying. I won't work 48 hours a week for somebody else, so I can work 150 for myself.
That is fact. And it's nice to feel your energy and your spirit. And I'm so honored to have you on the show because of, your ability to take the risk and stick to it, because so many people will think, oh, well, this is going to be easy. And then they quit after, a year or two of being in the trenches, because that's what it is. It's living in the trenches.
It is. And because I owned a business before, I know it's a 3 to 5 year cycle. Like I know, again, it's like soil, right? It takes 3 years to regenerate soil. And it's the same in business. Like you got to push through 3 years and then make decisions, I feel like, because it does take time to see real results. And there's a lot of pain involved before you get there.
Yes. And kudos for you for sticking it out and having the audacity to sell your house, because that's your house is your security, and do that is taking a leap.
Yeah, that was a leap of faith, but gosh, we do believe in this.
All right, listen, we have 7, 8 questions, and some of them I think are probably going to go long. So Ken, why don't we go ahead and dive into questions? We're obviously going to have her back because there was so many other things I didn't get a chance to touch on. But anyway.
Okay, well, we're going back to the beginning of the show. You're talking about seed coatings. Tia wanted to know, is the fungicide glyphosate?
No. So glyphosate is a herbicide. Okay, so it is. It's not the same thing. Glyphosate is also called Roundup. That's like a commercial name for it. It's not the same thing. Oh gosh, I have a big opinion about glyphosate. I'm sure Leighton has it too. We're big on glyphosate reduction and soil remediation after it. So we have protocols for that one too. But no, it's not the same thing. Glyphosate is a herbicide, so it's against weeds.
And what the information coming out on fungicides is they're actually a lot worse than herbicides.
I would believe that. I mean, I need to fungicide, I'm going to be honest, is not my strong suit yet. That's one that I need to dive deeper on, but I would totally believe that, because fungi in soil is so important. Important.
And it affects the bugs, which affects the birds, the bees. So the fungicides are, I'd like to say, conservatively 3 to 5 times worse than herbicides, because they travel up the food chain in a way that herbicides don't. So yeah, they're really nasty shit.
Yeah, but all of these sites are mass murderers. So in an ecosystem. So it all has a big effect on the ecosystem.
And again, the ecosystem is managed by nature. It all is important. You start pulling pieces out of it, it's like Jenga. You don't know when you're going to collapse the tower. Yeah. And that's the horrifying part of.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it's a compounding effect.
Okay, our next question is: do they make EM1 still?
We were a distributor of EM1. We are not that anymore. We are working with our own product now, which is called TCM. It's a consortium microbes of 3 groups: Lactobacillus, phosphoric, non-purple bacteria, and Lactobacillus. So that's one of the products. And we are mostly focused, like I said before, on protocols. So we are doing input reduction, and right now you're going to see a lot new from us in the next months. 2026 is a big deal for us. We have reinvented ourselves towards, we are outcome oriented, and we're gonna put out a lot of things, a lot of technology, some ours, some in partnerships, to get those outcomes. And our outcomes are: let's remediate the soil, let's get the crops healthy, let's get the food healthy, and let's make farms profitable. So there's so much. I mean, 2026 is insane for us, guys. We're so excited to show all of the partnerships that are coming out. It's all coming in the next few weeks, so we're so excited. We just want to finish this ag season in the next few weeks before we do that. So yes, that's a big question. We're getting that question everywhere. it was a big business decision, because we're going towards outcomes. So we're gonna bring in a lot of different technologies and a lot of different products to achieve our outcomes.
All right. When do we get an update from you? 6 months? 3 months?
Oh no, in a month.
Oh, wow. All right. So give
Guys,
yourself a break. Don't push it. If you want
guys,
to.
we haven't been sleeping since 2025. We haven't been sleeping. Also because we have a 10-month-old, but we haven't been.
That doesn't help.
No, like guys, we are so excited. This is such a big year for us. I mean, we've made some, like I said, business is hard. We made some hard decisions and some big changes, and it's a big lift for our team, but it's all coming together and we're getting such great support. It's insane this year, like big year.
All right, you got our support. Ken, plug her in for the next available.
And that's it.
Yeah, we're out a month and a half anyway.
Yeah, I've got one more date open in June. I think June 1st.
Is that too quick?
I can't do June 1st. I'm a speaker on the Nutrient Conference.
Okay.
But the next one you have after that, we're coming. And we got at least 3 big updates. At least 3 ones.
Fantastic. Right. Well, that'll be in July, but we'll talk after the show.
July is great.
Okay. Well, our next question, can you talk about the newer TeraGanix products? Have bought and used the compost accelerator, Bokashi brand, and EM1.
Yeah. We have a concentrated product, TCM. Like I mentioned before, it's lactobacillus. I always forget this bacteria. Non-sulfur.
Purple non-sulfur bacteria, but there's 2.
That one always gets me. That one always gets me. And yeast. It is basically we're doing the same things as we did before. It's breaking down organic matter. It's making nutrients more bioavailable. It's compatible with all of the protocols that we do in commercial farming. Soil bioactivator, it's a very similar thing. These are beneficial microbes that do that. And then Bokashi brand is basically a rice bran with beneficial microbes. So we're putting TCM in that. So we're achieving basically the same results, the same performance with it.
So you have the product mixed with bran. Is that like a?
That's a Bokashi brand. So that is for Bokashi composting. So yeah, that is what you do when you put organic matter. Then you put a bran. The bran is basically the rice. The rice is the carrier. I would call it the carrier. Yep. And then you have inside, you have beneficial microbes that when you apply them on organic matter, they reactivate and they start fermenting.
Gotcha.
And I just want to bring this up. No, I can't see the live questions on XCast, so you'll have to come. And I noticed you have came and put a question on YouTube. But guys, if you're watching on X, we don't see the live questions. You have to come to YouTube to put in your live questions. So speaking of questions, the next one, I am late to the live, so forgive if this has already been addressed. What is the host opinion on TeraGanix can be used with Korean natural farming?
Wow.
Oh, Korean natural farming. Korean natural farming is heavy on biologicals. It's heavy on fungi. It's heavy on bacteria. That's it. I mean, it's the technology that kind of originates from that mindset. So yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I wouldn't see why they would not complement each other. I mean, I think that the foundation of natural farming or Korean natural farming, which is the same, is the IMO. So it starts with the collection of the precursors to fungi, which is the yeast and molds. And without the yeast and molds, you can't get the saprophytes or the mycorrhizae to really colonize and start doing their work. So it's a critical foundational point. Most of the other ones are supplements for like sprays, foliar sprays or soil drenches or nutrient deficiencies. There's a lot of benefits to natural farming, but I don't think that they, other than IMO 4, I don't think they really address the soil toxicity and the need to get it functional. Like if you make IMO 4, which is IMO 3, and mixed with a healthy soil, but if you don't have access to healthy soil, you didn't make IMO 4. You just made you didn't really accomplish the goal, because you have to have that fully biological, healthy soil to mix with IMO 3 to be effective. So in the case where what we're talking about is you use her product to build the healthy soil, then you take that healthy soil and you mix it with IMO 3. Now you're converting dirt into soil. So that's where I think her product would be super beneficial, is if they applied that product for a year or two on the soil that's degraded and then came in with the Korean natural farming IMO 3 and made it. I think you'd have amazing results.
Such a great answer. Never go that route. Such good answer.
I've been doing it for a minute.
And actually, I just realized, Cass, I was wrong. I am seeing you ask the questions through X, or else I wouldn't be able to see that at all. So my brain was fogged up there for a second.
How do you know it's X?
Well, let me just pop over here and go like that. And I don't know if you guys can see it. There's an X right there by his picture.
Oh, that's what that X is.
Yeah,
I wondered what that was. Okay, cool. Well, I learned something new today.
And so did I. As he says, I'm still on X. So
yeah, see that's still an X.
Yeah, I don't know why it didn't clue in there for a second. I think I need more biology in my brain.
Speaking of which, do you have clients that drink your products?
Yes, probiotics. Yeah, we do. That's one thing we're not scaling right now. It's one thing we're not doing right now, because we have switched from, we used to be EM1 distributor, which the product was Pro EM1, which was a great probiotic. So that's something we're not doing anymore. But absolutely great product. You guys should go for it. Should go for it. I mean,
drank compost tea live, Ken.
I mean, it saved my gut so many times.
Oh, so true. So true.
And that's where Farmer Cheryl said, is TMM drinkable.
TCM drinkable.
Yeah.
So we don't have the line right now that is a probiotic drinkable, but we will definitely let you guys know.
In other words, you can. It's just not approved.
That's also true. It's the same microbes. It's the same thing. It's just one is produced in the with more hygiene. How we call it? It's food. FDA approved, food grade. Yeah. That there's no formulation difference.
Yep. Well, I know I eat worm castings, so to help with my gut bacteria. So, but most people would never do that.
Yeah.
Okay, so yes, please provide recommendations on mycorrhizae suppliers in the U.S.
Let me send. Okay, we can. Let me send you guys links. I really need to check the two companies that we recommend.
Why don't you post up your socials? Someone else asked for that. Your Instagram handle or any other social media platform.
Yeah, our Instagram is TeraGanix. Our Facebook is TeraGanix. Our YouTube channel is TeraGanix. If you type that in, you should find it. And we are we are posting on social media. You'll see what we're doing as a team, the background, the field trips, the farm tours. We just came back from Hawaii, so we had a whole Hawaii farm tour and how it's done there.
You got into Hawaii?
We are helping one farm there, and this is one of our projects, is how to help flip their business model. And those are the things we also do. We have with financials, we have with how to have a regenerative business model. You're pulling information out of me. Those are the big, big, big news. That
All right, I'm shutting up. I won't ask which island, but I think I
those are
probably
the things we're working on. Like we're on a mission regen. That's what we're on, and it is, we're helping with financials, we're helping with business models and all of that. So we just showcase that what's happening in Hawaii. We have one project, field trips in California. We'll be in California next week. Field trips in Midwest, how the product is used, our protocols. We have live presentations twice a week on how to do nitrogen reduction. We give free content tips how to reduce nitrogen with or without us. There are things that you can do to reduce nitrogen. You don't need us for all of those. We teach that. We teach our protocols. There's so much going on our socials, and we're really fast at getting, as soon as we can get information out, you'll get information on our social media for sure.
Where
and our
in
YouTube.
California?
Sorry?
We're in California.
Central Valley, around Fresno.
Okay. All right. Well, when you're ready to break into the SoCal market, let me know.
Oh yeah, where are you based?
Oxnard.
Nice.
So strawberries, avocados, citrus, as far as you can see.
Oh, we got protocols for those.
Yep. So probably ought to at some point set up a little meeting, maybe at Rodale, and get some of the local farmers and meet your people and talk about what you can do. I mean, strawberries, they just got done fungiciding the hell out of these fields.
Yeah.
And it's horrifying. Like
a big deal.
The amount of plastic, let alone the fungicides that they spray.
So I'm originally from Slovenia. That's in Europe. And my family was a strawberry farm. So, that was the majority of our revenue back home. So no strawberry farming. It's a tough one. Short season, once a year. You gotta.
We actually get two. We get 2 seasons out here.
Yeah, California. Yeah,
they grow, but they have different cultivars.
We back home had 5 weeks.
Wow.
5 weeks. That's all you get.
Damn.
That's a tough crop back home.
Yeah,
I can't imagine.
Well, speaking of strawberry farms, my parents had one, several acres, and we had day neutrals and everbearing. But yeah, we're in northern Canada, so yeah, that short growing season is crazy.
Sure, yeah, you got it. Like, and that is almost 24 hours. Those 5-6 weeks, like that's it. That's your window. You got to do it. Like everything, you're betting everything on that window.
Yep. Next question. What TeraGanix products would potentially help accelerate the leaf mold breakdown done in a Johnson-Su bioreactor? How can your product add value to the worm casting process?
Leaf mold breaking down in Johnson.
So a Johnson-Su reactor is a cylinder.
Yeah.
It's about 4 feet high. You use a pipe on the inside so that the air can get down inside of it. Generally, it was used wood chips and cow manure was the original. Now they've modified it a number of different ways to use leaf mold and all kinds of different ingredients. So it's basically a composting system. It takes about a year, but you get a fungally dominant product at the end of it. So go ahead.
This is a theoretical answer. I would have to consult with a couple of other people that I have in mind. I think it could, because the sole purpose of these consortium microbes is it really well breaks down organic matter. And one of the big things that we're doing is we can accelerate in farmers that are using, let's say, manure, right? Like that's one organic matter that you put down that it's not, it doesn't really create nutrients that are free for plants to absorb it in 3 years. So we are achieving that in 1 year already. So just based on that knowledge, I think there's a case there, but I would have to get a little bit of help on this one, to be honest.
No, I'm gonna help you. Absolutely, will it speed up the process? Because you are another precursor to fungi. So you're going to push the spores, you're going to push the growth because you're providing everything that the fungi needs to do its job. So if you're converting cow manure or horse manure or whatever, faster than it typically does in a field, the answer is absolutely yes. You will speed up.
And based on that, I was saying, I think it would. Don't have the experience to say 100%, but yes, I think it absolutely would.
I'll absolutely go out on the limb for you on that one, for sure.
Okay, would love to see Leighton do a demo on how to properly apply mycorrhizae and determine its effectiveness. Also, how he examines it microscopically.
All right, so that's a really great set of questions. So after I learned that the major supplier for mycorrhizae fungi out of the mid-Northwest, I'm even going to give you a kind of locale, you can do your research on it, was selling me product that was junk. I went down the rabbit hole with Efren. I said, all right, I want to try every different company that you have got, which you have done the documentation on. So I want the ones that you've okayed, or the ones you've okayed, obviously not the ones you've denied. And I want to test their product. And so instantly we worked with a guy named Man OG out of LA. He was making a liquid. Problem was you had to refrigerate the liquid and you had to use it within, I think it was 6 months of production, or the effectiveness crashed very quickly. Had good luck with colonization if I kept the protocols. Problem was that I have to pre-order in the spring because I don't know what's going to hit me throughout the growing season in New England. And so by the end of the season, if I hadn't used it all up, I lost the product. So I wasn't overly thrilled with that. But again, I achieved good colonization rates, 20 to 40%, which is fantastic. Then he came up with another company called BioRadis out of Spain. And that's when I really was like, this product I like. Highly shelf stable, powder form, water soluble. And again, I sent him, I'll send him different tests out of a couple of different containers to get the range. Every time I've done it's been 3 to 5 times over the spores that they're guaranteeing. So I'm actually using less product in a shelf stable way, that I'm getting colonizations 40 to 50% across the board. So those are the products I would use. I do what's called qualitative microscopy. I do not do quantitative. Quantitative is where you actually count. I have played with epiphorescent microscopes. I've also played with using a black light to identify the mycorrhizae because you cannot see it. It's translucent or transparent. So you have to use a black light to actually see it. When it comes time for me to qualitatively or quantitatively measure, I always send it to Efren, and I'll give you his contact information. It's called MicroRoots, www.microroots.com. His name is Efren. He's an old school, hardcore mycorrhizae fungi guy, and he does the root testing. He'll test product for you. I highly recommend this because, again, it's a blind product. And if you don't see any results, you got bamboozled, because you should see the results. You'll see it because mycorrhizae is 50% of the fungal community.
Yeah.
That's a huge piece of it, right? Saprophytics only break down organic matter, create organic acids, which feeds the other soil food web characters. It doesn't feed the plant directly. The mycorrhizae does feed the plant directly.
It mines directly.
Yep. And it not only mines, it has been documented. The bacteria and spores can travel inside the liquid tube and then can be diverted easily to wherever's asking for it.
Same.
So not only is it giving you nutrient, it's giving you, say, I need a phosphate solubilizing bacteria. No problem, buddy. I'll send a few over for you. So it's sending biology internally. It's sending nutrients internally. It's sending extra secondary and tertiary metabolics internally. And externally, there's an aqueous coating on it, like the rhizosphere on a root, where we're documented bacteria and biology traveling the other way, because the weight of the static pressure of moving one way causes a current on the outside going the other way. So mycorrhizae is like God of the fucking soil world, as far as like really providing
Yeah.
the
And it
plants
can,
what they need when they
and
need
it can communicate miles away. Miles. It can transfer information about, hey, I'm being attacked by a pest here. And they, on the other side, the same plant can actually adjust for like to defend themselves. Like
build their
the
defense.
communication is insane. And we know so little today how it actually, like, I mean, it's in like, it, for me, it's just mind blowing. The whole world of microorganisms is mind blowing. It's like, if that is not divine at work, I don't know where it is.
Love it. It's all about spirituality, frequency, vibration.
All about the biology.
Yeah.
That too.
Actually, I spoke with a gentleman today. He's coming on the 15th of June, exactly about mycorrhizae and a product that they've developed over the last 30 some years, that's shelf stable up to 3 years so far from their testing. And he's coming on in June, and I'll have him send you a sample, Leighton, so you can send it to Efren and see what Efren says on it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll pay for the test.
Sounds good. Well, that'll be after the show. Anyway, we'll go to the next question here. Would you recommend adding the TCM microbial inoculant to a water reservoir for irrigation planting?
Yes, absolutely. That is a perfect way to deliver, to spoon. The best way to feed the plant and the soil is spoon feeding. A little amounts of microbes. We do it differently in commercial agriculture because you can't go out there every week with a tractor, right? So we have different rates. But if you can do that, that is the perfect way for application. And those are small amounts. You can do 1 gallon per 1,000 gallons of water. Like if you're continuously irrigating, you can do you can really do small amounts if you're continuously spoon feeding it.
All right. What about agitation? Do you need aeration or pump recirculation to keep the product in equal, uniform?
You wanna like agitate it so that it's equally mixed.
Yep.
You do want that so that it's an equal spread, but that's the only reason why you would need it. There's no need that you need to aerate it. You don't need to aerate it. It just needs to be equally mixed.
Okay, so tank mixed.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's one. Do you still sell the infrared
ceramic powder? No, we don't have that. That was such a specific product that nobody on our team could really get that trained in to deliver real outcomes. We know it's a good product. We know it does something, it does things. But honestly, again, if we cannot quantify the outcome, we needed to focus. And that was part of our thing, is we are now really like focused on what we do. So no, unfortunately, we don't have that product anymore.
Okay. And for that and for EM1, if people wanted to specifically buy that brand, where would they go?
To the original manufacturer, which is Emerald USA.
Okay. And then our last question that I've got right now is, are the content sessions live casted? And that's for when your company is putting out those videos every week?
Oh, okay. That's for us question. I thought that's for you question. Yes, we do twice a week. We have a nitrogen presentation, which is how to reduce nitrogen. If you go on any of our social media or website, you have a link where you can sign up. Those are live twice a week. One is tomorrow at 4 p.m. Pacific time. One is Thursday, 8 a.m. Pacific time. And then we have protocol deployment and activation. Those are ones we have our farmers as a client and they have their actual protocol. We have those live. And with the new things that are coming out, there are going to be more live workshops and webinars that we're going to post. Yes.
So people can participate, like they can ask you questions like this platform?
Yes. So it's about 20 minutes of presentation and then it's open for questions. They can either unmute themselves, ask directly, they can type in. Yes, we have live questions.
Nice.
And that is all broadcast on your YouTube and your Instagram, or?
So those are you go on any of our channels, you will have a link where you register and then we send out a link. So we usually have like not more than 10, 15 people at a time so that everyone can ask questions so we can debate about their protocol. But again, they're twice a week. So it's very easy to come in.
And if you can't get on one show, you get into the following week, right?
You get into the following. That's why they are twice a week. So the nitrogen ones are twice a week. The activation ones are once a week. And the new things that are coming out in the next weeks, it's going to be the same thing. We're going to have live when it's fresh.
Cool.
Awesome. Well, Tara, it was just an absolute pleasure to meet you, and I wish you only great success. Congratulations on your new child, a boy or a girl?
A boy.
Oh boy, you got your hands full now. 2 boys.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
2 little boys, not one.
Nice.
I really appreciate you giving us, 2 hours of your time to come on here and tell us your story. I love thinking about camel races. That's just too cool in my mind.
Thank you so much. It was so fun.
Yeah, and we definitely, we'll get you back on in July, so that you can bring us up to speed on all your new announcements and your progress. And definitely be a friend of the channel. Stay in touch. Anytime you have something that you want to share or whatever, feel free to reach out, and we'll make sure that we support you as well.
Thank you so much. I'll also send you recommendations of who I think you should also invite. We've mined some amazing people in this industry.
Fantastic. And we're open to it all. I mean, we do spiritual, we do physical, we do energy, we do, farmers, doesn't matter whether it's cannabis or corn.
Yeah, it's all connected.
Yeah, we're full spectrum and not afraid to talk about anything on this channel. So
nice.
And I'm sure Ken would appreciate it. I mean, he works his butt off behind the scenes to make sure that we do have a guest every week. And there's times that we get into a challenge like a drought where we don't really have any guests, and I'll be out mining and he'll be out mining, and we're coming back with, oh shit, let's just pull one together, pull a rabbit out of our hats, and
I'll send some recommendations your way. It's gonna be fun.
Awesome. And Ken, thank you as always for all the hard work that you do behind the scenes to make this podcast happen every week. And to the audience, they don't understand that there's a lot of work behind it. So
yeah, it is.
And if anybody wants to buy the new products, if you go to the website or in the description, my affiliate link is there. And if you buy through that affiliate link, it actually helps to support the channel. So that's a fantastic thing too. It's always great to help, your company, our company, all companies that are helping to support the biology that keeps us alive.
It's all about the community.
Amen to that. Well, on that note, I guess we can get off a couple minutes early today. Unless you had any other follow-up questions, Tjaša, or anything else you wanted to add to our conversation today?
I'm good.
Well, pronouncing her name right would help too.
Didn't I say Tiara right?
Tjaša.
Tjaša. Tjaša. I got my R in my ass.
It's a hard name, No, I think I don't know. I feel like I talk a lot. I feel good. I feel like I've already told you too much. Like, I'll have to go back now to my team and be like, I'm sorry, guys. I already gave them a sneak peek of what's happening. Now we have to, we have to go live with
it, Okay, guys. Well, hopefully we'll see you on Wednesday with Andy and I. See, who do I have next week? I don't even know what day we are. Here we are. Zachary Jones is next week. So you guys are going to want to check that out. And that's with Leighton on the Soil Matters, of course. And don't forget, we have the ladies on Thursday. Chiropractic is sexy. That's to help our human body get that energy flow and our muscles working properly again. So, guys, it's all about the biology, but it's about us and our energy flow. So don't forget, it's a combination of everything coming together to make our planet healthy and to make us healthy. But, guys, have a wonderful Monday evening. We will talk to you soon.
Peace out.